not just about getting a deal closed. It's about aligning on shared goals, making sure we're solving the right problem, and ensuring we can actually scale together. That upfront rigor means faster onboarding, better results, and long-term partnerships that last. That's a quote from Lee Aho and a sneak peek at today's episode. Welcome to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, the show where growth-minded business leaders learn how to turn marketing into a measurable revenue engine. I'm your host, Kerry Curran, revenue growth obsessed, go-to-market expert and industry analyst. Each week, I sit down with the brightest minds in marketing, sales, and customer success to unpack the real-world strategies that drive sustainable revenue growth. If you like what you hear, please be sure to follow, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. It helps us reach more leaders like you. Today's episode is for any agency or B2B services leader who's trying to scale new business smarter. I work with a lot of agencies who need to move from referrals or founder-led growth to a robust go-to-market engine. B2B SaaS and tech companies have mastered the GTM framework, but agencies are still lagging behind, except for one. In Smarter Targeting, Stronger Growth, How ICP and GTM Rigor Unlock Scale, Lee Aho, the CRO of PerformCB, joins us to share how his team applied modern B2B go-to-market best practices to hyper-target the best ideal customer profile to drive exponential results with a performance-first model. Stay tuned until the end of today's episode, where Lee shares how they use a can't-miss offer strategy to win top-tier clients faster. Let's go. So welcome, Lee. Please introduce yourself and share your background and expertise.
Gladly. Thanks, Kerry. I'm Lee Aho. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer with PerformCB. I'm approaching my 17th year with the business, and while I wear a lot of hats, I really largely focus on new business development and strategy execution for key accounts. Now, for listeners who may be less familiar with PerformCB, we really specialize in driving new user acquisition on an outcome-based model. So this can look like different things depending on the brand or marketer who we're aligned with. But some common examples would be brands like Fetch Rewards, FanDuel, Cash App, SoFi. They may want to acquire new users to their mobile app experience. Similarly, for brands like LendingTree or Mutual of Omaha or McAfee, they may look to PerformCB to drive consumers to their websites or landing pages where they'll either complete a lead form or make a purchase. We also do a lot in the pay-per-call space. So brands like Allstate or Nationwide or United Healthcare have call agents that are looking to increase the volume of high-intent qualified inbound calls. But the overarching commonality is that regardless of which outcome we're delivering, it's all done on an outcome-based model where we're only getting paid for those results. Now, one cool thing about the way we structure our deals is that regardless of the commercial model we get paid on, so if I use the mobile app acquisition as an example, we may be getting paid when the user goes to the app store and installs the app, but we're always trying to align to understand what's more important and meaningful to that marketer. So we're optimizing everything against metrics that happen further down funnel. It could be an account registration, a first-time deposit, but we really want to be lockstep with the marketer in terms of knowing what's most important to them when we're building scaling strategies for new user acquisition.
It's such an awesome business model and so valuable to your clients, and it's very cool. So I'm excited to kind of talk to you today about how PerformCB has built your own customer base. And so let's talk a bit about how you've shifted in the last year. Talk to me about what's changed, what you've shifted towards, and how that's working for you.
Yeah, happy to. We've really elevated new business across the organization, and it hasn't been a single change. We've we've implemented a lot of different factors that are driving enhanced results now. And it's kind of that compounding effect. So if I were to call out a few, and I think we'll unpack these a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
we really spent some time identifying our ideal client profile, and we're finding who we're targeting as a great prospective partnership with PerformCB to drive great results for the marketer. We've done a lot in terms of revamping our storytelling and our pitch presentation to make sure that we're presenting the opportunity in the way that's most impactful for that brand to make important decisions for their business in terms of, hey, who do I want to align with and how do I best align to drive that net new growth that's hitting all of the KPIs. We did some team restructuring to try to enhance that onboarding process and making sure that we're delivering results right from the jump. We've had a lot of cross-team collaboration and cohesion to make sure that all teams are really helping to provide the same message to our prospective clients and deliver those same great results. And there's a number of other factors that we've thrown into that we'll likely get to, like developing a can't miss offer or proposal. But all of those things have helped contribute to significant growth for, what's a fairly established business. We've been around 20 plus years, but have really moved the dial the past year and a half to accelerate that new business development.
Yeah, it's such a cool model, Lee. And, I work with a lot of B2B SaaS brands and do a lot with go-to-market and revenue architecture. And a lot of the initiatives that you've rolled out in the past year are more common to B2B tech or SaaS or other more conversion-based solutions versus a service. And so I think that's what's so cool about your approach is you've taken these tried and true B2B customer acquisition best practices, again, not typically seen for a service organization, and apply that to a service organization and really seeing amazing results. So I want to kind of talk about this some more. So and you mentioned that you've seen huge results with this shift. Can you share some of the stats with us?
Yeah, there's a lot that we're excited about. We're just coming off of kind of Q1 board meeting where we were discussing some of the results. If we look at the value of new business launches in Q1 of 2025 versus 2024, we're up 1,000%. And that's great for our clients because it means when they're aligning with PerformCB, again, they're only spending when we're driving results. So when we're talking about increasing the value of those brands to PerformCB, it means that they're getting a lot more quality customers. We've also, more than 3x our conversion rate when we think about discovery call to close one. And again, that aligns with going after the right types of prospects that we can build a productive partnership with, and then making sure that we're dialed in on the story and really, again, being aligned in terms of, hey, here's what we're looking to get from this partnership, and how do we build that go-to-market execution strategy that's positioning them to win.
Yeah, I love all of this. So talk about the cross-functional alignment that you've rolled out across sales, marketing, customer success.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that touch the new business results that we're talking to. So on the very front end, like we have a revenue operations team and a market research team. They were very involved in kind of I'll call it our post-reflection discussions, right? So we looked at all of our launches from the previous couple of years and said, hey, what among this group helped them accelerate new business strategies with PerformCB? So we looked at kind of client profiles and said, what can we identify here as commonalities among the most successful launches that we've had? And then on the flip of that, for brands that maybe struggled or at least were challenged to qualify for as much traffic as we would have expected initially, what was it that was a limiting factor for their program? And that was part of the ICP refinement. But those two teams, the revenue operations team and research team, is really in line with sales in regards to who our ICP is. So when they're helping to fill that top of funnel pipeline, it is, very much aligned with what we've said works within our business. Then, as the sales team is going through the process of making sure that, hey, this is a good fit for PerformCB and we're a great fit for the client, we've introduced another team called Marketer Development Team. And I'll even step back for a moment too. So prior to the marketer development team, we would take new business launches and we would transition them to our account growth team. Phenomenal team. Tons of tenure with PerformCB on average. They're 8+ years with us, but they have established portfolios and books of business. So we wanted to build a team that was just hyper focused on helping these new business launches start to get that traction immediately and make sure that not only were they understanding of all the opportunities available to them, but they were just crystal clear in terms of how to execute on those to acquire the traffic that they wanted the most. So, we'll keep marketers aligned with marketer development as they continue the ramp up period and are really hitting their stride. And ultimately, we do then start to bring in some of the existing business team members. But it's a unified front where we've got different teams that are contributing to those early results.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and on the end of all that, so now that we're smarter about who we're targeting and within those organizations who we're targeting, marketing's playing a huge role. So, you were talking about some of the strategies that maybe you can acquire from some SaaS-focused companies. We've always done a good job of delivering for our clients. What we haven't always done a great job of is promoting ourselves. So marketing now has really helped dial up, people-based marketing and account-based marketing, targeting those key strategic stakeholders for our prospects with branded advertising for PerformCB. And unquestionably, there's a high percentage of our opportunities right now that we can measurably say, hey, this was impacted by the ABM efforts of the marketing team.
Yeah, this is everything you've talked about so far, Lee, is so smart, because going back to the ICP, a lot of services organizations I speak with we'll sell to anyone, we'll sell to everyone, or well, if they if they're going to pay us, we'll onboard them. And I think where you and your team have really gotten deep into who is most successful working with us, who can we be most helpful to, beneficial for, and then backing that into your ICP is just one of the smartest approaches there of who's your best customer, because then, as you talked about, that turns into greater lifetime value, greater revenue growth for PerformCB. So it's such a smart strategy. And it sounds like as you've learned about kind of the key components of what makes a good client, you're building that into your outbound and pitch messaging, as you mentioned. So talk a bit more about what you're doing with that. You mentioned some paid ads and targeting, but talk about a bit more of how you're using that customer insights for your acquisition efforts.
Certainly. Yeah, the restructuring of the outbound messaging and the sales pitch was kind of step 2 in this process. Like once we knew who we were targeting, we got very intentional with regards to how are we building outbound messaging and what are we saying to try to position ourselves for successful exploratory calls. We like to lean in a lot on social proof and hey, what are we doing with like type brands, and what is the strategy that we're successfully using to drive net new customers for them. So there's a lot of language in there that's kind of vertical specific, competitor specific, channel specific, that we believe resonates most impactfully with those prospects. Additionally, years ago, we were so personalized on the sales side of sending one-off emails, where we did start to layer in more technology, right? And we've built more email cadences that still have that personal element of it, but allow us to be in front of prospects more than we otherwise would have been. Yeah. From a storytelling standpoint, it was a similar philosophy, right? We have a lot of really great sellers who were using similar presentation pitch decks at times, but the narrative would often change. So, we got very specific on each thing that we're going to show to a prospect. Visually, what are we trying to convey here, and how are we connecting the dots for them? And then even as the narrative or the speaking points, what's the best version that we can be bringing to the table today, and just do that for every single piece of the sales process. We've kind of hit the lottery, I guess, when it comes to PE partners. We're on our second one right now, and both of them have been phenomenal for us in the stages of the business that we've been. our current group, Behringer Capital, there are a lot of owners and operators themselves in previous life. So, they have experience with this and certainly helped buy in or get the team to buy into like, hey, the story really matters a lot. And we knew that and we were executing on that way. But I think there was a ton of room for improvement when it came to actually demonstrating that to a prospective client, because we knew if we kicked off a partnership, we'd be really successful and be their top user acquisition partner.
Hey everyone, it's me, Kerry Curran. If you're a B2B company that sells to marketers, whether you're an agency, MarTech, or AdTech, and your revenue is either flattening, declining, or just not growing fast enough, I can help. I've spent my entire career selling, marketing, and servicing marketers, so I know firsthand the challenges they face, the buying decisions they make, and what actually moves the needle. The truth is, most marketing strategies aren't built for revenue growth, but mine are. As your fractional Chief Growth Officer, I'll bring revenue-focused marketing strategies designed specifically for selling to marketers, deep expertise in agency, MarTech, and AdTech buying behaviors, modern go-to-market strategies that include everything from brand awareness to driving loyalty and retention, and a track record of doubling and even tripling revenue for B2B companies just like yours. So if you're tired of your stagnant results and you're ready to build a marketing engine that actually drives revenue, let's talk. Visit revenuebasedmarketing.com or connect with me on LinkedIn to schedule a consultation. Together, let's build a smarter, more profitable path forward. RBMA, Revenue-Based Marketing Advisors, we're revenue-based marketing that works. Yeah, it's definitely proven to be true. And it's getting more strategic and customized to your target audience, which so often, especially speaking with marketing agencies and other marketing services, we're the cobbler's kids, where we do it very well for our clients and don't do it well for ourselves. And that's where I think it's you and your team have really done an amazing job doing that acquisition for yourselves as well, and especially doing the paid ads and attribution measurement as well. The other aspect that I see a lot around go-to-market strategy is the customer success. And you talked about marketer development team, and somewhere I read a stat where it's the experience in the first 30 days that will determine whether or not a client will renew, 12, 10, 11 months later, at the end of their 1-year contract. And the speed to results is a big part of that. So you talked about that marketer development team. Is it a scenario where you're really training the clients on how to be smarter and more successful with your partnership?
That's certainly, education is a big part of it. And we're not asking them to take over the controls, but we want to make sure they understand all the opportunities that exist for them and how we're seeing other brands successfully capitalize on those traffic channels or on those traffic opportunities. So that team they're phenomenal communicators. We want to make sure that there's alignment between the marketer's objectives and the strategies that we're going to put in play. And they do really help connect the dots in regards to, here's what we believe we need to do from an execution standpoint, and here's how we anticipate this influencing the results that you see going forward. That you're spot on. And as it comes to, how critical that inflection point is when you go from being a prospect to being a client, and what's my early success. Our model is unique, right? In that we're not signing people up for a year-long agreement. It's all performance driven. So we could onboard a big brand, and if the program that we're trying to drive traffic to isn't competitive, they'll spend very little with PerformCB and they'll get very few new customers. So because of that, I think communication is really key for them understanding, hey, here's how I can go about this. And I've got a team that has a proven playbook and all of the social insights to really make us successful.
Yeah, it's a brilliant strategy. Really pulls it together of who are the best customers, making sure you're targeting and connecting with those best customers I think one other thing you'd mentioned in our previous conversation is your team that's doing the research for prospects to make sure that you're spending time on the companies that fit that ICP as well. You want to talk a bit about the research that goes into that as well?
Yeah, it's been a huge asset for new business development. I've used some mobile app examples previously, so I'll kind of
Mm-hmm.
stick with that. When you're thinking about ICP, I believe there is an importance of being able to put something on paper so that everybody's aligned in regards to, hey, here is our belief system regarding ICP. For mobile app, we know, if it's a free mobile app that has an MMP or a tracking system on the back end that allows us to successfully track all of the events that we're sending to them. That's key. We look for sufficient download volume. So, for us, generally speaking, if someone's doing 15,000 plus monthly installs, that's a pretty good brand signal. We look for
Mm-hmm.
presence in the geographic territories that we can traffic really, really well. And then beyond that, it's like, that's a good initial profile. Let's set up an exploratory call and understand what their goals and objectives are.
Yep.
And then we did the same thing for web, right? We looked for those same commonalities. We've done similar things on the pay per call side. So nobody in the business is unsure of who we think is a great prospective fit. And it
Mm-hmm.
really adds a lot of value. And even, when we get to a point where we've got the campaign deal dynamics, we know what this would look like, we still implement some check and balances internally. Like, we'll preview these to our media buying teams, to our market development team pre-launch, to make sure we know what the go-to market strategy is, where we're
Mm-hmm.
going to get that traffic alignment. So when we hit now live, we're already in a position where we have that execution strategy ready to tee up and execute on.
Yeah, it's a brilliant strategy, and there's so much takeaway from this today for other companies that are still doing the will sell to anyone and everyone. So I really appreciate you sharing your case study and kind of proven strategies with us. So for if someone's listening and they're like, wait, I need to get smarter, I need to do what Lee and his team are doing, like what are the where should they start? What's the kind of readiness or foundations they should have in place?
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, the thing that really kicked this off for us was some self-reflection. So
Mm-hmm.
look at what partnerships have worked really well. And for those that haven't, what can you identify about them that would have made them more successful? And I think that
Yeah.
puts you down the path of figuring out your ICP.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you start to have that target list of, hey, here's who we want to go after, take a look at those outbound strategies, right? Are you using some technology? And is that technology still enabling you to be personalized? Like, are you talking to that prospect in the
Mm-hmm.
language that they understand, maybe a vertical specific messaging, maybe some of the social proofs that would resonate with them? And, it takes a certain number of touch points to get that call. So
Yeah.
make sure you're doing sufficient outreach there as well. And we like to do cross-channel outreach. So we do a lot through LinkedIn. We do a lot through email. We'll try some different channels,
Mm-hmm.
some in-person visits as well. I am a huge advocate of the market development team because I've seen what it
Yeah.
does for our business. It doesn't have to be that formula, but I think you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, as we go through the onboarding process, how can we make this as white glove as possible and really
Yeah.
position our new client to win?
Mm-hmm.
I do like the addition of, account-based and people-based marketing from a targeting standpoint as well, because we can measurably say it's helped tee up more opportunities for us. And I think, collectively, all those pieces start to make a really big difference. One other thing we didn't talk to as much, but it's been really helpful for us, is we said, all right, what would be our can't refuse proposal or offer that we could extend to somebody who we're not working with right now? So in our case, there's been select instances where we're so confident in the results that we can drive for them. We've given them some form of a funded pilot where we're giving them a sizable data set of what we can deliver, with the contingency on that, hey, when we exceed the KPIs that we've discussed, we're rolling this forward into a paid partnership going forward. But we really want to give them every reason to say yes and see it firsthand, because we know that will result in long-term, sticky, sustainable, scalable partnerships.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think too, adding that to your pricing model or your own revenue model where they're paying you on an outcome basis as well. I think just makes it even more unique and valuable to that audience. So this is very, very cool. And so, Lee, any other tips before we let you go?
Oh, there's so many, I think.
Yeah.
Just be intentful, right, with each part of the process, and
Mhm.
get multiple eyeballs on it and say, are we telling the right story? And is the messaging that's being utilized across the team
Mhm.
what we all believe is the correct value proposition and unique differentiator in this space?
Yeah.
Like I've again been here almost 17 years. I wholeheartedly believe that we are uniquely positioned to be a great UA partner for these brands.
Mhm.
But you have to make sure that you're connecting with the brands or marketers as well, or whoever your client may be.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this. Thank you so much for all of your time and expertise. How can people get in touch with you to learn more about either your process or PerformCB?
Yeah, hopefully there's some sales leaders or founders out there that are saying, hey, we would like to brainstorm on this. We're all about idea sharing and certainly don't hold back on what's worked well for us. Or if there's marketers who are saying, hey, we're looking to acquire new users and we want to look for maybe refreshing channels that are smarter, safer at massive scale, we'd love to talk to them as well. My email is just Lee, Lee, at performcb.com. Message me on LinkedIn as well. Mention the podcast. I'm sure that will get a high response rate. But yeah, I would love to talk to anybody who's out there listening and thinks that there's a worthwhile discussion to be had.
Excellent. Well, we'll be sure to put that all in the show notes. But Lee, thank you so much for your time. And again, this was great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. I think it's great what you do and appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. If this episode helped you rethink how your agency or services team approaches growth, share it with a colleague who's ready to get more strategic. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and leave us a review if you're finding value in this show. To learn more about how we help agencies adopt revenue-focused go-to-market strategies, visit revenuebasedmarketing.com. Until next time, keep scaling smarter, faster, and win the right clients in your pipeline.